My child, pause for a moment and listen carefully, because this is not random and it is not something you came across by accident. I have drawn you here in this exact moment because your heart has been carrying more than anyone can see, and even now you have been trying to hold everything together, smiling on the outside while quietly feeling worn down within, and I want you to know that I see you completely. I see the thoughts that keep you awake at night and the questions you do not speak out loud. I see the weight you carry when you feel like you have to be strong for everyone else, and I have not missed a single moment of your journey, not one tear, not one silent prayer, not one time you wondered if anyone truly understood what you were going through, and I am telling you now that your presence here is intentional because something within you has been searching for clarity, for peace, for reassurance that you are not alone in this. And you are not, even in the moments when it felt quiet and you wondered if I was listening. I was there with you, closer than you realized, guiding you in ways you could not yet see, and there were times when things did not go the way you expected, when doors closed or plans shifted and it left you confused or discouraged, but what you could not see then is that those moments were not setbacks, they were protection, they were part of a path being shaped for you with care and purpose. And I know you have felt tired, not just physically, but deep in your spirit, the kind of tired that rest does not fix, the kind that comes from trying to keep going when you are unsure of what lies ahead, and still you kept moving, still you held on, even when it felt like no one noticed. I noticed, and that matters more than you know, because there is something unfolding in your life that requires you to be here, present, aware, and open, and while you may not fully understand it yet, there is a shift beginning, subtle but real, like the first light before the sun rises, and you may have sensed it in small ways, a feeling that something is changing, a quiet awareness that things cannot stay the same, and you are right to feel that, because what is ahead is not meant to overwhelm you but to guide you into a place of greater peace, strength, and clarity. So stay with me here, not out of fear but because your heart recognizes that there is something meant for you in this moment, something gentle but important. And as you continue to listen you will begin to understand why you were led here and what this moment is preparing you for. I know there have been moments when you questioned whether anything was truly changing, when each day felt like a repetition of the same effort, the same waiting, the same quiet uncertainty, and you wondered if your prayers were reaching beyond your own thoughts or if they were simply echoing back to you. But what you could not see is that even in those still moments something was taking shape beneath the surface, something steady and intentional. And the reason it felt hidden is because it was not meant to overwhelm you all at once. It was meant to prepare you step by step, and I want you to think about the times recently when things did not go as planned, when a conversation did not unfold the way you hoped or an opportunity did not come through, and it left you feeling overlooked or unsure of your direction. Those moments were not signs that you were forgotten, they were moments of redirection, gentle shifts guiding you away from what could not support the path ahead, and I understand how difficult that can feel when you are living through it, because in the moment it feels like loss or delay, but in truth it is alignment, and your heart has been sensing this even if your mind has been trying to make sense of it, and that is why you have felt both tired and aware at the same time, tired from carrying the weight of uncertainty, yet aware that something deeper is unfolding, and I have been with you through each of those moments, quietly steadying you, placing small signs along your path, through a word you heard at the right time, a memory that surfaced unexpectedly, or a feeling that encouraged you to pause instead of rushing forward, and these are not coincidences, they are gentle ways I communicate with you, ways that meet you where you are without overwhelming you. And there is something important I need you to understand now. Your waiting has not been empty, it has been meaningful. Every step, every pause, every moment of questioning has been shaping your awareness, strengthening your patience, and preparing your heart to receive what is next with clarity instead of confusion. And you may not have noticed it fully yet, but you are not the same person you were when this season began. You have grown in ways that are quiet but real, and that growth matters, because what is ahead requires not just desire but readiness, and you are becoming ready even now. And as you continue to stay present in this moment, you will begin to notice the difference, not in something sudden or overwhelming, but in a quiet shift within you, a steadiness, a sense that you are no longer searching in the same way. And that is because you are beginning to recognize that you have been guided all along, and what comes next will build on that understanding in a way that brings both peace and direction. There is something I want you to gently notice now, not with pressure but with awareness, because you have already been seeing small signs in your everyday life even if you have not fully trusted them yet, moments that felt subtle but meaningful, like when you paused during a busy day and felt an unexpected sense of calm, or when a thought came to you at just the right time and helped you step back. Instead of reacting, these are not random moments, they are invitations for you to slow down and recognize that you are being guided in ways that respect your pace and your understanding. And I know there have also been times when you brushed those moments aside, telling yourself it was just coincidence or that you were overthinking, but your heart knew there was something more, and that quiet knowing is important. Because it is how you begin to reconnect with trust, not blind trust, but a grounded awareness that you are not navigating everything alone. And think about the recent situations where you felt prompted to wait instead of rushing forward, or when something inside you said not yet. Even though part of you wanted immediate answers, those gentle pauses were not delays meant to hold you back, they were spaces created for clarity to form, for your perspective to shift just enough so that when you move forward you do so with more understanding and less pressure. And I also want you to consider how certain things have naturally fallen away, conversations that no longer felt aligned, habits that started to feel heavy, or environments that quietly became uncomfortable. These are not signs that something is wrong with you, they are signs that you are becoming more aware of what supports your peace and what does not, and this awareness is a form of growth that often goes unnoticed because it does not arrive with loud changes, it arrives quietly, through small choices and gentle realizations. And even now as you listen, there may be something in your life that you are beginning to see differently, something you once accepted without question that now feels like it deserves your attention, and that shift in perspective is not accidental. It is part of you becoming more aligned with a path that feels steady rather than forced, and you do not need to rush to understand everything at once. It is enough to notice, to be present with what is unfolding, and to allow yourself to trust the process without needing to control every outcome, because the more you practice this kind of awareness, the more clearly you will recognize the patterns that are guiding you forward. And this is where your strength quietly grows, not from pushing harder, but from learning to listen more deeply. And as you continue, there is something even more important that you are beginning to realize, something that connects all these moments together in a way that will help you move with greater confidence and peace. And now you are beginning to see something that once felt confusing start to make quiet sense, not all at once, but in a way that settles gently within you, because those moments you once called loss are revealing themselves differently, the opportunities that slipped away, the plans that did not unfold, the people who drifted out of your life, they felt like endings at the time, and it is natural that they did, because you were hoping they would stay, hoping they would work, hoping they would bring you closer to where you wanted to be. But look again with a calmer heart and you may notice that some of those paths would have led you into greater strain, into environments where your peace would have slowly faded, and what you thought was something being taken from you was actually something being gently kept from harming your progress, not in a dramatic way, but in a quiet and steady protection that respected your journey. And even the delays that frustrated you, the waiting that tested your patience, those were not empty spaces, they were moments where your understanding was deepening, where you were learning to pause instead of forcing outcomes, where you were discovering that your worth is not tied to how quickly things happen but to how grounded you remain while they unfold. And I know there were times when the silence felt heavy, when you wished for a clear answer, a sign that everything would be okay, and the quiet made you wonder if you were alone in your searching. But that silence was not absence, it was an invitation, a space where you could begin to hear a different kind of guidance, one that does not rush or overwhelm, but instead brings a steady sense of calm when you allow yourself to notice it. And think about the moments when you chose to step back instead of reacting, when you allowed yourself to breathe before making a decision, when you listened to that small inner nudge that guided you away from something that did not feel right. Those were moments where you were already responding to that invitation, even if you did not realize it at the time. And this is where your perspective begins to shift, not because everything suddenly becomes easy, but because you start to understand that not everything that feels difficult is meant to harm you. Some of it is shaping you, redirecting you, preparing you to move forward with greater clarity and strength. And as this realization settles in, you may feel a quiet sense of relief, a softening of the tension you have been holding, because you no longer have to interpret every delay or change as something negative. You can begin to see them as part of a larger unfolding that you are learning to trust step by step. And this trust does not require perfection, it simply asks you to remain open, to continue noticing, to allow your awareness to guide you in small but meaningful ways. And as you stay with this understanding, something within you begins to align more naturally. And that alignment is what will gently lead you into what comes next, with a sense of peace that feels steady rather than forced. There are still moments, even now, when your faith feels quietly tested in the ordinary parts of your day, not in dramatic ways but in the small spaces where doubt tries to settle, like when you check your phone and the call you were hoping for has not come, or when you walk past an opportunity that still has not opened for you, and you wonder if you missed something or if you are somehow falling behind. And there are times when a relationship that once felt close begins to feel distant, conversations become shorter, the connection feels different, and you are left questioning what changed or if you did something wrong. And even in your work, when things feel uncertain or unstable, when you are doing your best but the results are not showing up the way you expected, it can quietly wear on your confidence. And then there are those evenings when everything slows down and the noise of the day fades, and you are left alone with your thoughts, and in that stillness you may feel a sense of being overlooked, as if the world is moving forward while you are standing in place. And I want you to notice something in these moments, not to judge yourself for feeling this way, but to recognize that these are the spaces where your trust is gently being shaped, because it is easy to feel secure when everything is clear and moving smoothly, but it is in these quieter, uncertain moments that your awareness deepens. And I have not stepped away from you in any of these situations, not when the call did not come, not when the door remained closed, not when the connection shifted, and not in those quiet evenings when you felt alone. I was present in each of those moments, steady and near, even if you did not feel it strongly at the time. And the truth is, you are not being ignored, you are not being left behind, and you are not forgotten. What you are experiencing is a space where things are still forming, where timing is aligning in ways that are not always visible right away, and it is natural for your mind to search for answers or to fill the silence with questions. But your heart is learning something deeper. It is learning that your worth and your direction are not defined by immediate responses or visible progress, and this understanding may not arrive all at once, but it grows each time you choose to stay grounded instead of giving in to the feeling of being left out or left behind. And even now, as you reflect on these everyday moments, you may begin to sense that there has been a quiet consistency holding you, something that has not left even when circumstances felt uncertain, and that consistency is what you can begin to trust, not as a sudden solution, but as a steady presence guiding you forward one step at a time. And as you continue, there is something important that will begin to unfold from this very place, something that will help you see these moments in an entirely new light as you move through your days. There are subtle moments that deserve your attention, not because they are dramatic, but because they carry a quiet sense of timing that feels different from everything else, like when you hear a simple sentence from someone and it stays with you longer than expected, not because of the words alone but because it speaks directly to something you have been thinking about, or when a message arrives at just the right moment, not with all the answers, but with enough clarity to help you take the next step with a calmer mind. And there are times when you feel a brief but noticeable sense of peace, even in the middle of a busy or uncertain day. A moment where your thoughts slow down and your breathing feels easier, and you may not know why it happens, but it creates space within you, and that space matters. And then there are small opportunities that appear without much noise, something simple, something easy to overlook, like a new idea, a conversation, or a chance to try something different, and it may not seem significant at first, but it opens a door just enough for you to move forward in a way that feels natural rather than forced. And even the delays you experience can carry meaning, not in a way that asks you to assume everything is perfectly planned, but in a way that invites you to notice how sometimes a pause keeps you from stepping into something that was not right for you, like when you almost made a decision too quickly or moved forward without enough clarity, and the delay gave you just enough time to reconsider, to adjust, to choose differently. And these moments are not about believing that every detail is a sign, but about becoming more aware of how your life gently guides you through patterns that support your growth. And as you reflect on these experiences, you may begin to recognize that there has been a quiet rhythm in your life, a pattern of small nudges, timely pauses, and unexpected clarity that has helped you navigate situations in ways you could not have planned on your own. And this awareness does not require you to force meaning onto everything. It simply invites you to stay open, to notice what resonates with you, and to trust that even in the ordinary, there are moments that help you move forward with greater understanding. And as you continue to pay attention in this way, you may begin to feel more grounded, more present, and more connected to the path you are walking, not because everything is certain, but because you are learning to recognize the quiet guidance that has been with you all along. and this growing awareness is preparing you for something that will soon become clearer, something that builds on these small moments and brings them together in a way that feels both natural and meaningful. And now you are reaching a place within yourself that feels different from before, not because everything around you has suddenly become perfect, but because something inside you is beginning to settle, and you are starting to release the need to hold on to what no longer brings you peace. And this is not something that happens all at once. It happens gently, in moments where you realize that you do not have to keep revisiting what has already ended, that you do not have to keep chasing answers from people who have already shown you distance, and you do not have to force open doors that have clearly remained closed despite your efforts. And I know this has not been easy for you, because part of you wanted clarity, closure, reassurance, something that made it all make sense, but instead you were given space, and in that space, you are learning something deeper. You are learning that letting go is not losing, it is making room, and forgiveness is not about saying what happened was right, it is about freeing your heart from carrying what no longer belongs there. And there have been moments recently where you felt the shift, where you chose not to respond the way you used to, where you stepped back instead of holding on, where you allowed yourself to breathe instead of reacting from hurt or confusion. And those moments matter more than you realize, because they are signs that you are no longer being led by fear, you are beginning to move with awareness. And this awareness is what brings a different kind of peace into your life, not a peace that depends on everything going your way, but a peace that stays with you even when things are still unfolding. And you may have noticed that you are no longer as affected by certain things that once overwhelmed you. Certain thoughts do not linger as long, certain situations do not carry the same weight, and this is not because you stopped caring, it is because you are learning to care in a healthier way, without losing yourself in the process. And this is where your strength quietly reveals itself, not in pushing harder or holding on tighter, but in knowing when to release, when to trust, and when to step forward without needing everything to be certain. And as you continue in this direction, you will begin to see that peace is not something you find when everything is resolved, it is something you create within yourself when you choose not to let fear guide your decisions. And that choice, even when it feels small, is changing more than you can see right now, because it is aligning you with a path that feels lighter, clearer, and more grounded. And as this alignment deepens, you will start to notice that what once felt heavy is no longer something you need to carry, and what lies ahead will meet you with a sense of readiness that you have been quietly building all along. You can feel it now, not as something loud or overwhelming, but as a quiet sense that you are no longer standing in the same place internally, that something is drawing closer even if it has not fully arrived yet. And this is where I am guiding you to prepare, not by rushing or forcing outcomes, but by tending to your heart in a steady and honest way, because what is ahead will meet you best when you are grounded, when your thoughts are clear, and when your actions come from intention rather than reaction. And I want you to begin noticing the small ways you can shift your daily rhythm, like choosing a moment in your day to pause and breathe instead of filling every space with noise, or speaking more honestly in conversations where you once held back, not to control the outcome but to express what is true within you with calm and respect. And there is also something in the way you approach your quiet moments, when you turn inward, not with urgency or pressure, but with a steady presence, allowing yourself to reflect, to pray, to sit in stillness without needing immediate answers. Because that calm connection is where clarity begins to take shape. And I am not asking you to become perfect or to have everything figured out. I am guiding you to take responsibility for the parts of your life that are within your reach, the choices you make, the habits you repeat, the way you respond when something does not go as expected. And as you begin to align these small actions with the peace you are learning to hold, you create a foundation that supports what is coming next. And you may notice opportunities starting to feel different, not because they are larger or more dramatic, but because you approach them with more awareness, you listen more closely, you move with intention instead of urgency. And this is how your path becomes clearer, step by step. And even when uncertainty remains, you are no longer overwhelmed by it in the same way, because you are learning to walk forward with trust and responsibility together. And this is where your growth becomes visible, not only to yourself but in the way you carry yourself through your day, in the steadiness of your choices, in the calm strength you bring into situations that once unsettled you. And as you continue in this way, you will begin to sense that what once felt distant is now within reach, not as a sudden breakthrough that changes everything overnight, but as a natural unfolding that meets you where you are prepared. And this preparation, this quiet alignment you are building, is what allows you to receive what is ahead with clarity, confidence, and a heart that is ready to move forward without fear.